Hello everyone, greetings from TCC. Here we are again back with practical number 8, packet tracer layer number 2 security. So we have to implement security on layer number 2 here. So first of all, this is the configuration they have given to set up. Okay, we have got here 4 switches of 2950 series, one central switch 3560, one router 1941 and the cloud. And there are 8 pieces down there named with C1 to C4, D1 to D4. First let's understand the background scenario, like what is happening here. So there have been number of attacks on the network recently, so for this reason network admin has assigned the task to configure the security on layer number 2. So basically when we say layer number 2 is nothing but data link layer. Okay, and in data link layer we talk about data in format of frames, and addressing mechanism works in terms of MAC address, that is physical address. So for optimum performance and security, the administrator would like to ensure that the root bridge, which is connected to central switch 3560, we have to protect it. So to prevent the spanning tree manipulation attacks, so this is what we call something called STP attacks, where an attacker spoof the root bridge and the attacker broadcasts out an STP configuration topology, some BPDU, that is bridge protocol data unit, and where again the spanning tree gets recalculated. So whatever the BPDU sent by the attacker, it announces that the attacker system has a lower bridge priority now. So what happens, like all the frames will get reroute towards attacker network, and then the attacker can see a variety of frames forwarded from other switches to it. So we have to avoid that. That's the first thing. So we have to ensure that the STP parameters are secure. Second thing, we have to prevent against the CAM table overflow attack. So a CAM table overflow attack is like a act of performed against a network switch, in which a flood, like they flood the switches with the bogus MAC addresses, and then this flood of data causes the switch to have the bogus entries as a valid entries in the database, and that cause valid addresses to get dumped. So we have to avoid that part also. So the network administrator has to decide the configure port security to limit the number of MAC addresses, so that no bogus MAC addresses should allowed in the switch. And if the number of MAC addresses exceed the set limit, the administrator would like the port to be shut down. So this is what we have to configure. And before we begin, all the devices, networking devices, routers and switches here has to get set up with the password, with the enable password, console password, and of course we also have to set the SSH login also. Means we have to enable this protocol SSH also in all the networking devices. So here is a topology. So now let's set up the configuration first, and this is very important. People have to carefully pay attention over the interfaces, okay, and that would really help us to follow the manual. So here they have not mentioned the interfaces, so I'll tell you like from which particular interface to which particular interface we have to connect the devices. So let me come to Cisco packet tracer. Here we are, and let's start the configuration now. So we need one router here, 194 series, okay. Then we need one cloud here on the right hand side. Let me place all the devices first, okay. I need a space down here, okay. And then I need a central switch, that is 3560 here. Then we need 29604 switches, and then we need 8 PCs. And the one more, yeah. The very first thing we have to do is like we have to rename it properly, okay. So let's rename it, that's the best practice. So I'll start with the router, go to config, change the display name and the host name to R1. Come to central switch, go to config, change the name central including the host name as same central. Then we have switch here on the left hand side. Let's click on this. Let's make it SW1, copy and then paste it. This will be switch 2. This will be switch A, SWA. And this, the last one is switch B. Okay, so all the switches, in fact all the networking devices have been named. And now let's talk about PC here. On the left hand side we have got C1, C2, C3, and on the right hand side we have got D1, D2, D3. So let's quickly rename them. And the last D3, second last, and last one D4. Okay, done. Now let's make the connections. Okay, so carefully have a look. Between the router and the cloud there will be like serial connection. So for that we have to insert the serial port here. So open the router, go to physical and switch it off from here, this button, and place this module HWC IT2T, that is a serial port module. Switch it on. Now you'll be able to have a serial connection between a router R1 and cloud. So go to connection types, choose the serial DTE, connect it from serial 0102 to cloud serial 0. Done. Now moving on to central switch. Okay, so here also we have to have a connection using a copper straight through from gigabit 00 to gigabit 0, not 0. Of course, we don't have to select this 2 gigabit Ethernet interfaces. We have to select it fast Ethernet 01 purposely, because we will be using those two interface of central to make the connection between switch 1 and switch 2. You will see. So now we are done with this. So remember, when I'm placing the mouse, so here on this side we have fast Ethernet interface 01, and on the upper side we have the gigabit Ethernet interface. So we have connected those things. Now moving on, we'll choose the crossover and make a connection. Carefully have a look. Gigabit Ethernet 01 to gigabit Ethernet 01. One more time, one more interface is there, gigabit Ethernet, and again gigabit Ethernet 01. So on both the sides it is 01, and here on the central server here it is 01 and 02 here on this side. Now taking again the copper crossover between switch 1 and switch A. Okay, you have to choose fast Ethernet 023 on both the sides. So 23 on both the sides, switch A and switch 1. Same here, 23 and 23. Okay, and this is very necessary if you're following the manual, because we have to fire the instructions and command using all those interfaces only. So we have to be very careful while selecting the interface. Now this is done. 23 is done. Now moving on, we also want to have a connection between switch A and switch 2 and switch 1 and switch B. So for that we'll be using cross, like in the cross connection we'll be using fast Ethernet 024, like this. One more time, from switch 1 to now switch B, fast Ethernet 024 to right. And one more connection we want to have here, that is between switch 1 and switch 2, and for that interface will remain 01 on both the side. Now we will choose copper straight through and connect all the pieces to the switch A and switch B respectively. And remember, we have to go in sequence, like the 01 to PC1, 2 to C2, 3 to C3, and to C4. Same on this side, starting with 1 to D1. 2 to D2. D3 and D4. So topology has been set now. I guess there was a need to configure the passwords. It was mentioned here in the practical, like we have to enable the password like this, having the password like this, console password also, and then SSH also on all the networking devices. So I'll show you. We'll fire those commands, and you have to copy paste those commands in the other switches also. So let me do it for the router and this central switch. So I'm coming back here on the router, go to CLI and come here and enable it. Okay, make sure that again the router hostname is R1. If it get changes, make again update it. Coming back here, so we are already in configuration mode now. So now we have to fire those commands to enable the password. So the very first password is like, so the very first command is enable secret ENPA55. Okay, like this, then enter. The next command is line console 0. Now you have to set the password for console, say login. Then we have to set up the domain name here for SSH. So IP domain name CCNA security.com. Enter. Then set the just a sec, we have to fire this command in the config mode basically. Yeah, IP domain name CCNA security.com, and there was exit command in between. So after login, you have to say exit and then IP domain name CCNA security.com, and then set the username as admin and the password as a simple password you can choose. Let me choose admin P855. Enter. And then configure the line virtual terminals like VTY0 to 4. Enter. And then configure the line like this, login local. Okay, and then generate the crypto key for using algorithm RSA. Enter. It will ask you the number of bits 1024 supply, and we are done. Okay, so basically we have this set of commands. Okay, let me place it on the notepad. So these are the commands basically we have to fire. You can simply copy this, and we'll mention this commands in the description of this video, so you can take it directly from there. So we are done with this router. You can go to the switch now, central switch, and go to CLI and then enter. We are already in config mode, so kindly paste and done, and then mention the number of bits. So the password setting is done for central, and similarly in same fashion people have to do it for switch 1, switch 2, switch A, switch B. Means simply you can copy those commands here and set the enable password, console password, and enable the SSH protocol there. Okay, after setting up the configuration, now let's set the IP addresses for the devices. So let me start with the router R1 first. So here we have two interfaces, but we have to set the IP address for this interface towards the network, like towards the south, and the interface is, we can place the mouse and we'll come to know the interface name is so you all can see the interface is gigart00/. Okay, so let me click on this router R1, go to config, select the gigabit Ethernet 00 and give the IP address. Okay, we'll share this table with you all, like how to assign the IP addresses. Otherwise, you all can note it down. This is 192.168.1.1. Okay, subnet mask will remain 255 3 times 0.0. Switch it on. Port status, switch it on. Done. Now the next thing we have to do, also we have to set the IP address for the serial interface on the right hand side. This thing, serial 010 it is. So again, click on the router, go to config, select serial 010, and the IP address will be 209.165. okay, or any other IP address you can choose belongs to class C. Okay, that will do, or otherwise you can just have this 200.1. so 209.165.200.1, again class C, switch it on, close it. So we can see the green signals on both the side now. Now let's go to C1 here on the left hand side. Okay, so we'll define a network here for all the species. All the species will belong to same network, that is 10.1.1.0. 10.1.1.0, I repeat. Okay, so let's go to C1, go to desktop, go to IP configuration and type the IP address 10.1.1.1. so after network address, like we are giving the IP address here to C1, or you can have like 10 also, if you just have to avoid the confusion. Okay, because we'll be giving the default gateway as 1, so let's keep it 1.1.10. and here as you can see the first octet is 10, so that's why it is taking the subnet mask from class A by default. But we'll make a change here quickly so that no confusion should be there between the subnet mask in overall network. So let's have it like 255.255.255.0. okay, so while mentioning the wildcard mask, that will be easy for us. 3 times 0, 255. so let's keep this standard. Okay, so I'll just copy this, and here the default gateway will be 10.1.1. okay, then close this. So this was 10, now C2 will get 11, and then so on. So go to desktop, go to IP configuration, so 10.1.1.11. I'll copy the subnet mask here, and then here 10.1.1.1 default gateway. Close this. 11 is gone. C3 will get 12. 10.1.1.12 and then 10.1.1.1, then close. So 12 is gone, 10, 11, 12 and 13 now. C4 is 13. Desktop IP configuration 10.1.1.13. Subnet mask is 255 3 times 0.0, and the default gateway is 10.1.1.1, and then close it. D1. So 13 is gone. In the sequence we'll go ahead. This will be 14 for us. So desktop IP configuration, so 10.1.1.14. Next is like default gateway is same for all the PCs. D2 will be 15. 10.1.1.15. and the default gateway is 1. 14, 15 gone. 16 for D3. Desktop IP configuration 10.1.1.16. and the last one 17. Desktop IP configuration 10.1.1.17. 10.1.1.1. Okay, so we are done with setting up the IP addresses for PC and the router.
That's all guys from this video. If you really like this video, press like button and do subscribe to our channel. If any queries or suggestions, do comment below. For more such updates, follow us on Instagram and Facebook.